Welcome in, Cube Show Podcast, college football podcast. Usually comes to you on Sunday. I was in Dallas for a UFL game on Sunday, flew in Sunday morning, came back Sunday afternoon, so wasn't able to get it done. But we have a great college football conversation for you today. A lot of things happening around college football in the spring, not related to so much practice in spring games. So we're going to bring Josh Pate in. It's been a while since we caught up. Talk to him about some of these things going on, big picture college football topics, items. What's the future of a couple of things inside of college football? And then we'll talk some of the teams coming up that we like, that we have confidence in, what we're hearing about a few of those. You know, each and every week, we're brought to you by Wickles Pickles. Wickedly delicious. There they are. We have them. We snack on them. We love them. They have them here. Please support Wickles Pickles. If you see them in your grocery store, pick up a bottle. Maybe go get that okra. Go get some of the peppers that you got there. Or head over to WicklesPickles.com. You can pick up some of the gear, pickleball paddles, hats, aprons, towels, different things. Support Wickles Pickles. They support us. You get to a restaurant, you see their items. There they are right there. And they can drop ship you the pickles right there. So go grab those. Not going to waste too much time here because we've got a lot to get to. Going to roll right into our interview with Josh Pate. All right, so here he is, the great Josh Pate, who forced me to join in right after a workout. So I'll be a little sweaty through this one.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting that we start on chapter 3 of the story. Luckily, I have receipts. Here we have a screenshot. I screenshot text exchanges between you and I. Allow me to share. I have a game at noon. Can you record a pod tomorrow? Sure. Yeah. Time? I'm flexible. Mm-hmm. Anything after 10 a.m. This is me talking. 10:15 a.m. work? Yeah, I'll hustle home and send a link. It's 10:16 and you're not here. This podcast is a sham. Hey, buddy, what time is it right now when we're recording?
It's 2:50 p.m.
All right. What you want to talk about?
We don't need to go through all the reasons that we got delayed a little bit earlier today, but we will go into some college football. Before we do that, I feel like this is your first official interview since you became an engaged man. Is that correct?
It is, yeah.
I feel like Barbara Walters here. Like this is like People Magazine live on television here. We got the exclusive. So first off, congratulations.
Thank you.
Second off, was your photo shoot a detour from a storm chase?
The photo shoot was scheduled, so I knew what day it was going to happen. Now, did I have to really quickly come off the road from storm chasing to make it happen? I'm not going to say no. Okay. It was a very busy and active weather week last week, but we made the trip down to beautiful Gulfport, Biloxi, Long Beach, Mississippi. Is this having an effect on you? What are you wiping your face off for?
I can't help it. It's just
wow. Love is in the air after all.
It's there. Can't help it there.
Yeah.
This Long Beach, like you and Snoop getting married to the same place.
Yeah. I didn't know much about Long Beach, Mississippi growing up. I knew Biloxi. I knew Gulfport. There's a nice little hidden area between them called Long Beach. That's where Savannah's from. So I have since discovered Long Beach. I've been told not to talk about it. They kind of like to keep it secret.
Oh, okay.
So is this a big show? Like, is there a lot of reach on this show?
Possibly 200 to 400 people will watch.
Okay. Well, you guys look, not all at one time, but try to check out Long Beach every now and then on your way through. Don't stop. Keep going. They don't want you staying there, but it's a nice place. Nice oak trees all the way to the shore, which I didn't think existed. But people on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, it's a nice little hidden gem down there.
No doubt. All right. Well, happy for you. And obviously, this has been a long time coming. So glad that you finally got it done before you ruined it. But it's a good thing. But yeah, either way. You have been kind of touring around college football here this spring, pre-spring, I guess you will. And there's a couple of things that I was interested to talk to you about that I feel like are sort of happening to college football. Number one, spring games. I believe you probably, like me, do not hate spring games, actually like spring games, because if you peel back the curtain a little bit, there are things that you can find out. There are things that will present themselves. There are questions you may have about an individual or a position group, just minor questions. And if you can see a little bit of that guy or those guys together, you walk away saying, don't have to be completely concerned about that. Or you know what? Still very concerned about that. What are you hearing? What are coaches saying about where we are headed with spring games or spring carnivals, spring get-togethers, spring family reunions that are going to somehow replace what we used to reference as a spring game?
Well, I think a lot of them, first off, there's not a a unanimous sentiment. So not everyone feels the same way. I think a lot of them that I've spoken to feel that if you did nothing more than removed the post-spring portal, they'd be cool with sort of reinstituting the spring game or not playing such a watered down version of the spring game, or whatever they do in lieu of the spring game. So that's part one. There's another group of people that really lose revenue by having a spring game. Not everyone's Alabama and Auburn, in other words. So they found a convenient off ramp to try and use as an excuse when really it's we just don't want to pay staff to come to a stadium and lose money on a day. There's the third part. This is the one that always puzzles me a little bit. They really don't want to risk the injury. And I just question, how do they practice? What do those practices look like? Then there's the fourth group, which to me is by far the most intriguing because I've wanted this for a long time. And that is, well, we want to do the stuff that Deion's talking about. We want to be able to bring an opposing team in for an entire week. It's not just a game against them, but you work out against them. You have organized team activities one-on-one, and then that leads up to whatever it's going to be. Now, here is the wild part. You present that, and people who just want to be argumentative push back against it, fans mainly, and they say, oh, no, because then we're going to get people hurt. And I've watched a lot of spring games, and to my knowledge, I've always seen 22 of your players on the field at one time during a spring game because you're playing each other. Theoretically, if CubeU is playing Pate State, don't I only have 11 of my guys on the field at one time versus your 11? Doesn't that cut my injury risk in half? Now, look, these are very basic numbers. I'm not going calculus. I'm going basic mathematics, but it's really split, man. Like, not everyone's on board or they're not on the same page. But I think if you were to just find a way to get rid of that post-spring transfer portal, if you didn't change anything other than that, and then maybe if you did change something, it was loosening what you're allowed to do, like giving people the option to do the real spring game thing and getting rid of the post-spring transfer portal window, you'd be set. People would mostly have it the way they want, to choose how to do it the way they want.
Well, it's like I've said with FCS, is that you move your league to spring because your pay games that everybody says you have to have, they're going away anyway.
Oh, yeah.
You're not going to have those too much longer, but the people will still sit there and bang the drum and say they need that 850,000. They need the 1 point. I realize they do, but there's not going to be any of those to be had very soon, because as we keep going through this revenue cycle of needing more, we're going to get to the bottom of that list, Josh, and it's going to say, hey, why are we giving Mercer $1.2 million when we could be playing one of our other brethren in a different conference, and then we just share the money every other year? Oh, okay, cool. You're out. And then use your spring game as an early game against one of those opponents if you can keep one there or not. Or since you're already playing in the spring, you go play that against another team that's for their actual spring game doesn't count. Either way, people push back on that. They don't like that. I want to go back to the injury part because it's interesting when you say that, and I obviously feel the same way because we had a lot more guys get hurt in practice than we did in any spring game I ever played in or any that I've ever watched. I think the part that coaches don't want is to lose is control. And they don't want to have like a rogue guy from, a D3 school or an FCS school taking a free shot on their quarterback when they know good and well their guy wouldn't have done it. Or going low on a guy for, let's say, outside zone, and he's going to kind of go low on him, try to get him down to the ground where we know good and well we don't do that against our guys. And those things would happen. It's just real. But as you stated, they're going to happen in games anyway. So the risk is still going to be there at some point in time. The two things that I'm hearing and that Greg and I have talked about in the morning are, one, not wanting their players to be seen, which is a situation like I think mainly what Lane had at Ole Miss last year and what we've heard a couple other coaches like Matt Rule actually talk about, which I think is real to an extent. But then the other, now that I'm hearing a little bit more of this year than last year, Josh, is the players are basically saying we're not doing it or we don't want to do it. And we'll pull a hamstring that week or we'll have the flu that week. And essentially the guys who you probably didn't want to hold out just aren't going to go do it. Is there any reality to that from guys that you're talking to?
It's not stuff I've heard, but I'm not saying it's not stuff. But you know what? If that's the case, that's the case. Did you not just learn critical things about players on your team? Did you not just learn who you can't trust, live bullets in the late stages of the fourth quarter in week 3 come fall? I wouldn't say I'd be happy with that, but I'd welcome finding that out in March or April instead of September or October.
Yeah.
The other part of that is, I talked to Rule about that stuff. I talked to him face to face about Is your sentiment real? Basically, I wanted to know, is this just cover for your real intentions? He said, no, it's the post-spring portal window. Like I got no interest in basically running a flea market and saying, hey, take a look at all my players. And if you're desperate out there, here they are. But I will tell you now, there was one major coach who explained to me something that happened last year. He said, this is not a reason we're not going to have a spring game. So this particular coach is still going to have a spring game. But he did tell me a story about how last year they got a guy who may not have the best practice habits in the world, may not have the best attitude in the world. And, you know, you get into a spring game and you're not treating it like a regular game. A lot of guys are going to get work. So a guy who normally wouldn't have gotten a ton of work, but will be like an important two for you come fall,
Sure.
He gets in, plays out of his mind. He's just a gamer. So he just goes off. He's in the office 2 days later. He wants more NIL money, or he's out. He's bouncing to the portal. And so you're sitting there thinking to yourself, had we not had a high profile game on national TV for our spring game, had this guy not had the chance there, this wouldn't have happened. He's played like crap all spring. He just turns into a Greek god on a 2 hour stretch of a Saturday. Now he wants more money from us. And we've got to either take a principled stand and have serious attrition at that depth spot come fall, or we got to suck it up and pay him. And they sucked it up and paid him, and he didn't really do much the rest of the year.
You've heard me talking about Fanatics Live. If you're looking to get back into the hobby, my daughter's birthday was yesterday. She's getting into Squishmallow cards, which Panini makes. I guess that's a real thing. I don't even know. But if you're looking to get back into the hobby, a couple of Topps football sets are out now. You got a lot of basketball going out. The Bowman U Chrome college basketball set just came out with some pretty cool Cooper Flag and Juju Watkins cards, Sarah Strong. You can go grab those, Janai Broom and others. Go to your app store right here and click Fanatics Live or download it and then get to it. And you're going to see an array of places where you can go and get into college football, college basketball, NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball breaks. Also WWE. You can go in, get some Disney breaks, Pokemon breaks. They got them all right here at Fanatics Live. And then what you're going to do is you're going to hit that search tab right there, and you're going to go find my friends at Pizza Pulls. There they are. Bam. Go to shops, and you'll see Pizza Pulls right there. And you'll see mine coming up on Tuesday right there. We're going to break some Chrome Sapphire, Bowman Chrome Sapphire college football. It's going to be our last big college football break that we have for a while. Still some teams available. You can go grab them now. Go to Fanatics Live, then find Pizza Pulls. You'll find that break. You can head into the store right there. Look, buy now. And then you'll get a list of the teams that are still available. You pick your spot, and there they go. There's all the teams right there. You can check them out. The bottom line here is go to Fanatics Live, download that app in your store. You can go to them on your computer as well, and you can check everything out. Fanatics Live is where you can get into football, baseball, basketball, and more breaks of cards, so you're not paying $1,500 a box or $300 a box. You go buy your one team, you get the cards that come out from that team, and then you're happy, you leave, you're satisfied, it's not breaking the bank for you. And go see my friends at Pizza Pulls while you're in there. The Live Golf's there for Masters Week. You can go check out some of those this week as well. Pizza Pulls on the Fanatics Live app. If you're trying to get back into the hobby, this is the best way to do it. Fanatics Live. I could also see that situation, not that exact one, but one similar to that, where kid goes off, comes in office, asks for more NIL money, and they look at each other and say, this is our chance to get him in the portal.
Yeah. Yes.
Let him go.
Yes.
Like, he can't go tell people we pushed him there. We weren't mean to him. We didn't have any more NIL money. Sorry, buddy. Like, go test the waters. They're going to see that spring game. Maybe they'll overpay you. Have at it. You can take naps at their practice. It's all good. Like, good luck with that. So
yeah.
where I wanted to kind of roll this into next with you, because you do a good job having these type of discussions, and that is big picture college football. With this whole conversation about spring games, that individually doesn't start to have me be concerned about the college football consumer, but it does, like, it's another portion of the meal on the plate that starts to get me really concerned about the future college football consumer, because it feels like we are just taking things away. And I know people are going to say, wait, we have more playoffs. Like, these conferences are expanding, so we have better conference games. But I believe in its totality, all the things that we fell in love with college football for, we're kind of like starting to pull those away from the table. Like, you're not going to have biscuits with this meal. Like, there's no corn. Nope. You don't get the gravy here. Like, we're going to give you these three big items, and that's all you're going to get, and you're going to like it. People can go to spring games usually for free. They can take their kids. They can kind of spread out and sit and watch, and it's fun, and you can make a day out of it. And then, you look at kind of where we're headed. If we do get to where I was saying earlier with some of these conference games, it's not going to be cheaper to go to when your non-con games are Iowa and Maryland and Clemson and Florida State. So when you look at kind of everything that we have and where we're headed, because my theory on this, Josh, is it's easy to love college football right now because everything has been different for what now, 5-6 consecutive years? Like we've had NIL, and then the portal got out of control. Conference expansion got out of control. There's a new playoff. There's going to be more game. Like we've had new. And if you're like me, new is usually pretty likable. Like it's like I got a new house. I love a new car. I like a new shirt. People love new, but new doesn't always last as interesting. So when you look at it from that perspective, do you begin to sit back and say, we better be careful what we're doing to the college football consumer here, because it might not always be as I know the ratings are great, but it might not always be as likable as it is right now.
Yeah, it's been one of my primary concerns. So let me break that down point for point. First thing you said, we'll work backwards. The people who use current ratings to justify that the current decision-making structure is sound, it's pure ignorance. It's like if you live in New Orleans and I'm up in St. Louis and I just poison the Mississippi River, and then I call you 5 minutes later, I say, hey, are you good down there? He goes, yeah, man. No poison in the water down in New Orleans. Oh, I guess I must not be hurting anything. I'll keep dumping it. Okay, bye. Now you would listen to that and you would say, well, that's stupid because it would take the poison a little while to get downstream.
Obviously.
So believe it or not, audience habits are the same way. You can make the most detrimental decisions possible to college football right now. If you and I were in charge, we could intentionally take a flamethrower to the entire thing, and people would still watch Texas, Ohio State in week 1. There's nothing you and I could do to this sport that would make people not watch that game this year. But what are they doing 5 years from now? What are they doing 7.5 years from now? If you don't think that college football is vulnerable to the same things that have taken down other, big entities within the overall landscape of entertainment, you're kidding yourself. Then the next thing, to go back to the spring game. Yes, you've added more playoff games. All right, but to me, to you, I know I can speak for you here and a lot of other people listening to and watching this. What draws you to college football is different than what draws you to the NFL. There is an adhesive that is attached between your soul and a college football program that extends well beyond just what's the product on the field. So take Auburn, for example. What do you think's more likely? Do you think it's more likely that a kid has that indelible bond like planted in them by watching the 2010 BCS title game? Or do you think it's dad taking him onto campus for a spring game in like 1997 and then 98 and 99 and it's 73 degrees and the trees are blooming and it's awesome and you got in for free and he shows you where he went to school over here and this is this hall, this is that hall, you go do Tiger Walk, that stuff right there. That's the conduit. Like that's the adhesive. That's not all of it. That's part of it. It's a key layer. So it's not the end of the world if you simply remove that from the equation. I don't doubt that dad and kid will still watch in the fall. The attachment is a little weaker than it would have been otherwise. So then if you do 5 of those things, how weaker is the attachment overall between the consumer and the product, between the person and the thing, in this case, college football, than it would have been a generation ago? And I would argue moderately to significantly weaker. That's my concern. Hopefully there's not validity to it, but that would be my concern.
Yeah, I just think that we keep pulling away from a lot of the things, whether it's rivalries to an extent. Not all. They're not all gone. They're not all going away, but why take away even portions of those? Like we said something about, I know somebody, Pollock tweeted out the other day, like, what do you first think of? And he put the LSU logo. And I was just kind of being a smart ass, and I put a picture of us after the cigar game smoking cigars. And there were like 4 people responded to that and said, God, I miss Auburn LSU.
Yeah.
Like just, Mississippi State fans, they didn't beat Alabama a ton the last 15 years, but like they still want that game. They want that chance to go play that team. It's not a long trip. A bunch of kids from Mississippi played Alabama. A bunch of Alabama kids play Mississippi State. Like they want that game.
Here's the thing. There's no one thing that's the death blow to college football. By nature of how great But by nature of how great the product is, there's no one decision. So any given decision that's being made out there, someone is going to plausibly be able to say, you'll still watch. This is not the end of the world. That's true. So I've got like right over here on the wall, there's a thermostat. It's 71 in here. If I bump it down 1 degree, it's 70. You can barely feel the difference. Everything's fine, still plenty livable. But it is a fact that it's colder in here than it was before I pressed that button. What if I pressed it 10 times? All of a sudden, it's very noticeable that it's different in here. So the question is, do you just sit back? It's like the frog slowly boiling to death versus throwing him in boiling hot water. He hops right out. Like, do you have to be the frog that slowly boils to death, or do you use common sense and look around beforehand? We're going through all the metaphors. Before the poison gets dumped in, if you're downstream, do you proactively say, no, you're not dumping that poison in? Well, you got to have leadership to do that. So then I ask you, and this is rhetorical, who is that leadership?
Yeah. Collectively, there is none because it's not their job. And I think that even of itself is something that's hard for people to grasp, because I do believe deep down, like let's take Greg Sankey, for example. I think he wants what's best for college football.
I do too.
He doesn't get paid to make decisions that are best for college football. He gets paid to make decisions that are best for the Southeastern Conference. So if there's not anybody looking out for the collective good, there is none of that leadership, as you said. It's not present. It just isn't. It's not. We can all talk about it. We can all want it, but it's not there. So stay with leadership for a minute. And we know where we're headed. We all know where we're going. I kind of hope we never get there. Some people are rooting for it. When we do get to this great divide, when we do get to this like tectonic shift in the landscape of college football, what do you foresee as being next for those that are not included with the A group or the elites, so to speak?
So when you say that, would you mean like a UTSA level, like G5 level, or would you be saying like?
Well, there's going to be some that are bumped to that. So your, let's say Stanford's, let's say, I'm not going to say Virginia because for some reason they always get pulled into that mix.
True.
Your lower tier.
You're talking about like NC State. You're talking about Baylor. You're talking about teams like that, right? Or programs,
but also including that group of 5. Like, let's just say that when the Big Ten and the SEC pull away and they pick and choose their other 10, 12, whatever it is that they want to come with them, and whoever else is not included, them along with the Southern Miss, the UAB, the Utah State, all of those schools are going to have to come together and figure something out. So is that going to take one person? Is that going to take a Mark Cuban to come in and say, I'll front the bill on this. Let's do it this way. Here's your playoff system. We're going to reschedule things regionally. We're going to have new divisions, but we're going to call them conferences. We're going to actually go back to that. And you're only going to play teams in your geographical portion of the continental United States. And then we're all going to come together and we're going to have A, B, C, D. They're going to make the playoffs because of this. Y'all are going to play together, 18 teams. Here we go, national championship game. Like, does he have to come through with that kind of money and put that together with Amazon or whoever that is going to want to carry their games? I don't know. But that's I worry about that leadership when you talk about leadership than I do who's going to be able to guide the Big Ten and the SEC, because there's enough money behind those, and you can include the Big 12 or the ACC or portions of those if you want. There's enough money behind that honestly doesn't have to be led. It's going to be pulled by that money. I mean, it's just going to be somebody's going to drag that as far as they humanly possible. I worry about the next level of it. Because 1, it can be competitive. 2, it can be compelling. 3, there are people that care about it. There might not be 25 million a game, but there are people that care. And I think if treated properly, it can be sustainable. I just don't know who that leader is. That's more concerning from a leadership perspective for me than who's going to pull Texas, Alabama, USC, and Notre Dame to the finish line.
So my answer is yes. I think that's where we're headed. I've thought for a while, if you're in Birmingham and you plug in Seattle into the GPS, it could give you 37 different routes, really. Yeah. But the destination's still Seattle. I've believed for a while Big Ten and SEC kind of know what the end game here is. The end game is NFC, AFC.
Yep.
But it's just called Big Ten, SEC for college football purposes. But here's what I think is going to happen. I don't think the people in those rooms are stupid. It's like you said, it is not their job to look out for the best interest of college football right now. Right. I do think over time, once they have both hands on the steering wheel and there really is no threat anymore to them except from each other, I think they look across the steering wheel at each other and say, all right, well, maybe we do want to look out for the best interest of this thing overall, because it is in our best interest. So the world I envision is a world where Big Ten, everyone keeps thinking about it in classical terms. SEC, everyone keeps thinking about it in classical terms. Will it be 16 teams? Will it be 18 teams? Or maybe it's 35 teams, because maybe they've gone and swallowed up what is the Big 12. And then maybe the other one has gone and swallowed up what is the ACC. And my point there is nothing really has to change aesthetically for us. I don't care who owns what. What I care about is regionality. I care about tradition. And we're talking about really radical change here, but you're talking about radical change in the same sense that if a movie that you and I like changes producers and directors and whatnot, we want the movie to be good. That's all we care about. And so in college football, I think it sucks that USC and Rutgers are in the same conference right now. I think it's insane. So if we got to go down that road where the Big Ten and the SEC have everything consolidated under their umbrellas, there's nothing that says the ACC doesn't go right back to existing. The Pac-10 doesn't go right back to existing. It just may be that they're sub-licensed under, a different contractor, and it's the SEC in conjunction with this media company, the Big Ten in conjunction with that media company. I couldn't care less about that, because it actually does kind of deal with me, probably because of what my job is. But as a fan, I don't care about that. What I care about is, could you get back to a world where Washington and Oregon are playing in a different conference than Maryland and Rutgers? And then you can set up a postseason structure. And it is the professionalization, so to speak, from a model perspective of college football, which I'm not crazy about. But I would ask you, do you see any other options? And if the answer is, no, we're probably going that way one way or another, I would at least like the classical components of college football, tradition and regionality, to be at the forefront of the decision making. And I actually do think once the SEC and the Big Ten eventually gobble up what they want to gobble up, if they parse it out the right way, it could look strikingly similar to the way it used to look before all this started.
Yeah. It's almost kind of like, and you and I will be the Star Wars nerds here in this example. All the Star Wars nerds mad when Lucasfilm loses the rights to Star Wars and Disney's going to take over. But the majority of the people who are going to buy tickets to those movies are like, give me Ewoks, give me Stormtroopers, give me lightsabers. I'm in. It's like, I want to see what I want to see because I've always loved it and I've always liked it. So just keep giving it to me. I'll go see it. Other people who are diehards, know the inner workings and know how things happen behind the scenes might view it just a little bit differently. Staying down that path, this isn't as much of a spring topic, but where do you see the future of championship games right now that we've had a season inside of a 12-team playoff to digest it, see it, have more coaches verbalize, we don't need this. Why are we doing this? Have some commissioners basically present hypothetical models of a 3-4 or 4-5 playing in a conference championship game, which, sir, you can't call it that if that's who's playing in that. I'm sorry to inform you of that. But what's the future now after you've been able to sit back and say, yeah, that looks like it might be gone soon? I don't know how they're going to be able to manage that moving forward.
I don't know, honestly. I think there's two worlds there. That conference championship weekend is still going to exist,
right,
in its current time slot, so to speak. My question is, all right, with the Big Ten and the SEC, the way they structure that, are they going to have 3 games or 2 games that day? Basically is what I'm asking. Because you're probably going to take your top 6 teams and say, all right, cut off the rest of the snake. Those 6 are still alive. Now, you could look at 1 and 2 and say, number 1, here is your crown. You don't even have to play in a conference title game. You just won the regular season crown. That's what we do with our conference championship now. You go and take one of our seats at the playoff table. Number 2, you're a runner-up. You don't get a crown, but consolation, you also get one of our seats at the playoff table. 3 is going to play 6. 4 is going to play 5 into play-in games on that first Saturday in December. You could do that, or you could say, no, we're still going to have a conference championship game, and 1 is going to play 2, and 3 is going to play 6, and 4 is going to play 5, which equals 3 games. From an inventory perspective, I know that gives you more inventory, therefore you make more money off of it. But from the overall, like integrity of crystallizing value of regular season perspective, I'm not so sure I wouldn't like to see them go with Model A, which is if you finish 1 or 2, there is a bona fide present there. You don't have to go play anything. Yeah. Number one gets the crown, and both of you you go ahead and pass go, collect your 200, you go to the playoff. 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5 still gives you an incredible double header of inventory, along with the other conferences doing something similar on Championship Saturday. That Saturday would be gargantuan, by the way, if that's the way we went. I don't know knowing these people.
What if you just got together, SEC and Big Ten, and said, let's go down the list, and our teams that are on the fence here, let's just let them play for it. And if you're measuring Iowa versus South Carolina, and those two teams are two teams that we don't have to talk to the committee, but we know based on everybody else's rankings and what's happened, they're going to be on the discussion table of getting in, just let them play. Because if they beat that other team, if one of them's 8 and one of them's 11, if 11 beats 8, there's really not much more to talk about. They're in. Just have it that way, as in essentially now you're looking at a first round game. Like you said, play-in games, but you don't even have to eliminate one of your own teams.
Yeah, well, I think the follow-up there, or to give you the counter argument, from a Big 12 fans perspective or the Mountain West Conference commissioner's perspective would be, if we do that, you've gotten dangerously close to just that being the playoff and people realizing we don't even need to be included, which everyone in the room of sound mind knows is already true because there's a different caliber of football being played in those conferences than the others. But for the sake of maintaining the illusion, which I'm in on, by the way, I'm all for maintaining the sake of the illusion that competitively this is still a national thing. We can't do that. But look, you see me winking right now. We can't do that.
All right. So let's talk some actual, I don't know, is there anything else big? I did want to, let me follow up with this real quick. When you talked about adding more on that Championship Saturday, the first thing I thought of is, so would we ever subtract from the regular season? And before you answer that, I want to share a conversation that I had with Wright Waters with you, probably this may have been about a decade ago now. So BCS is still a real thing. And Wright Waters, who has worked at Alabama, been the commissioner of the Sun Belt, knows a lot more about college football than any of us, at least the inner workings of all of it and how it's gotten to where it was. And we were talking about home games as it pertained to teams playing home football games. He said, Cole, how everybody talks about these BCS payouts? You remember, Josh, when that was a big thing?
Yep.
Ooh, it's not the championship game, but they're going to the Sugar Bowl, and that's an $8.2 million payout. He said, you hear about how important that is to these schools to go to that game to get that payout. He said a home football game, I don't care who it's against, for Tennessee, Auburn, LSU, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, he said, those are worth about 3 or 4 of those BCS payouts.
That's correct.
He said, so that's what you need to keep in mind when you start talking about who's going to play where and who they're going to play against and what they want to do moving forward. And I was just like, okay, that's a little bit eye-opening. So taking that into consideration, how much do those other 2 games have to be worth, not only to those 2 teams or 4 teams, but to the rest of the league? If you're going to say, okay, we'll now start the second weekend of September so we can jam this in the way that we want to, or not make these kids play as many games to then go play that extra game on Championship Saturday, or you just add more and keep going the way it is. I guess the big question here is, would they ever take away from what right now's regular season is to add some of those other things that we're talking about?
I don't think they would. I think you'd stick with the 12-game regular season. If you do the math there, all right, here's what we're asking. We're just asking more teams to play an extra game. But the grand result is you're asking a few more teams to do nothing more than several teams just did last year.
Right.
So if you're Penn State, you played your 12 games. Your 13th was your conference championship weekend. You played a game that weekend, and then you lost it. So you played a first-round game. That's 14. 15, 16. It would have taken 17 for you to win it all.
Yeah.
It would take the same amount of games, whether you win or lose in that play-in weekend, for you to win it all. It's just that last year, only a small handful of teams would have had to play that many. We'd just be asking more teams to do that potentially. But I don't think they're going to cut into that regular season. The question, which I didn't think about until now, the question would be in that play-in weekend, are we doing the home campus games? If it's South Carolina, Alabama in the 3-6 game, is 6 going to 3? Or are we just setting that thing up, like they do with the Final Four, and they're having everything at the Alamo Dome, or we're having everything at Mercedes-Benz Stadium?
Friday night, Saturday morning, Saturday night. Play all three,
How
play
are we
three of them
doing
there.
that? It's crazy to think about football. High school football does that, state championships, but I've never heard of college football doing that. I don't think. I'm all for home campuses, campi, plural of campus,
yeah.
at any given point. So I haven't really thought that through. You know, the other thing, I was out at A&M last year for the Texas game, and after the Texas game ended, they lost, so they're not going to go to the playoff. I was talking to the head groundskeeper there. He said, do you realize what this was about to be like for us? If we win this and we go to Atlanta and we're in the playoff maybe, and we're in Texas now, we're in the deep South, to make this place look green for another month plus potentially. And then he said, I can't even imagine what it's like at Penn State. Nobody cares about this. I'm just saying there are so many different machinations of the playoff structure being on home campuses that folks never even think of. It's crazy.
Well, think about when you had basically the spokesperson for the committee even hint around the fact that some college towns might not really be able to manage a playoff game because of everything that would go into it. Not saying that they're not getting it or we're not going to take it there. And I think his words were twisted a little bit and how people actually took him and what he technically meant. But just that there was going to have to be a lot more work put into it. Think how people lost their minds with that. And that's just basically hotels, conference centers, places to stay, travel, getting people in via plane, bus, car. Like you said, there's a lot more that goes into it at a lot of places than just, can your football team withstand 3 more games?
I'll tell you, by the way, we were talking about this a second ago. I'll tell you one other growing in popularity piece of sentiment that I've started to get. I've started to get hiccups, obviously, and I've also started to get this piece of sentiment. So, you know, college football forever has been the minor league feeder system for the NFL. Therefore, the NFL has needed no minor league system. They just expect a fully developed and highly marketable product once they arrive on the doorstep of the NFL, because college football has provided that for them. And it's always frustrated me to no end how the NFL benefits so much off college football, and they almost never are willing to lift a finger to help college football. Like, in a very practical sense, if you wonder what I'm complaining about right now, if you're listening, what I'm talking about is the NFL's unwillingness to maneuver and or work with college football from a timing and windows perspective in broadcast to, you know, make it such that we don't have to play our national title game on a Monday 3 weeks into January.
Unwillingness to work, or more willingness to completely trample upon the last 2 or 3 years?
Yeah. Yes. The answer is yes. So one thing that I've noticed, and I don't necessarily, it's one of those things where you're looking at it like this and you can't see all the moving pieces right now. One thing the NFL has noticed is that the product, being the players, is arriving at their doorstep less and less developed now than the product has been in years past, especially at the quarterback position. And they're finding it's because the players are moving and moving and moving at the college level, and they're never really allowing that root system to take place and allow themselves to be developed in one place for 3 or 4 years in the classical sense. And so the NFL, for the first time, is looking around and saying, oh man, are we actually going to have to step in? Like, are we going to have to use some of our sizable equity here? Is it federal legislation you folks are going to need down there? Do you need our help? We've been lobbying Congress forever. You're rookies at this. We're writing in Sharpie. You're writing in pencil. Like I said, I don't know where that goes because it's still a relatively new problem.
Sure.
But I do wonder, maybe from the rafters, Sting style, if the NFL doesn't quietly get involved here on a few different fronts. And that's another change that could happen that you're not even thinking about right now.
I think it's a great thought, but I wonder, as you stated earlier, like go deep, deep, deep in the depths of how the NFL works, like not the head coach, not the offensive coordinator, not the quarterback coach, not the offensive line coach, not the general manager who's scouting kids, drafting kids. Like, how much do they care? Like, and do they, at the back of their minds, are they like, just get us the talent as quick as you can? We'll figure it out. Like, I know, okay, he's not ready. Push him aside. Draft the next guy. We already fixed our first round money problems, so we don't have to Sam Bradford and Matt Stafford kids anymore. So you know what? Just draft them, and we'll draft another one next year. It's fine. Do we need to trade them? Cool, we'll trade them. I wonder, the further down you go the list, or I guess further up you go the list towards ownership and commissioner, do they really care about the development part of it? Because as you stated, like, how many people watch the NFL and feel like the product is suffering? Like that the ball is just not that good.
I think enough do. And here's the other part. Even if there's not an army chanting that now, again, if you've got the smartest people in the room running your organization, their job is to think around the corner. Their job is not to wait until half of Twitter's complaining that the quality of the product has suffered.
Right.
Your job's to get in front of that, okay? And we suffer on that front in the college level because everyone, waits until the thunderstorm's already there to go shopping for an umbrella. Well, the NFL is pretty cerebral in how they run their operation. And so the thinking there kind of, as it's been explained to me, is they've already seen the early stages of it. Like the trained eye, in other words, when you're watching NFL games, especially the younger guys, you understand the product may be slipping a little bit. No, Nancy watching at the sports bar in Lincoln, Nebraska or Omaha or what, she's not noticing that. But then again, once she notices, it's way too late to do anything to change it.
100%. All right, let's take this kind of a little bit more on the field, a little bit more relevant to now and this upcoming actual season. I think you and I talked a little bit after the regular season. Either you came on with McElroy and I in the morning and we talked, or we were talking on one of our two shows about how difficult it is after the season ends to begin to project out to next year. Like we were talking about this with basketball today, because I went through this laundry list of guys that went from high-profile program to high-profile program and had also been at a different program even before that, like on their third and fourth schools. After talking to some coaches, sitting back, marinating on it a little bit, talking to some other folks, do you feel like you have any better grasp of this upcoming season's playoff picture? Teams that you are super confident are going to be in the playoff or be knocking on the door of the playoff? Because when last season ended and we gave it a couple days, I think most of us were sitting back like, maybe, possibly, could, don't really know. And I don't know how many more I do really feel like I know are going to be in that picture this upcoming season.
Let me put it to you like this. So if you just go preview magazine style, like if you need a really quick stat to pull out, the one I've been pulling out is your top four in the odds right now to win the title in some order are Texas, Ohio State, Georgia, Oregon. None of them return a starting quarterback. None of them return over 50% production. All right, so they could still be a rocket ship, any one of them, for all I know. But having been out on the road and having watched some of these teams practice and having gotten some feedback, it's not shocking to learn that no one thinks they're ready to compete for a national title in the middle of spring. So
does the door open this year maybe? Because we kind of thought last year that was possible.
Yes.
But does the door open this year for like an Iowa State with Rocco Becht and a lot of the same cast of characters coming back? They lost a couple good receivers. They lost some guys on defense, but like a TCU Josh Hoover led football team to make like a big splash. Is the door more open for teams like that are not the known commodities, but have more proven capabilities within their roster returning again?
If we are in a world where none of those traditional powers are going to scale and become elite versions of themselves, yeah, I'm thinking about Arizona State. That's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
That kind of team that traditionally in college football you speak about as if it's college basketball. If they get hot at the right time. That's never mattered in the past. There's always been a sledgehammer in the room. And so no one really cares how hot you get if you're that inferior compared to them roster-wise. But if Dante Moore is just a B-level quarterback, if Ty Simpson's serviceable at Georgia or Alabama, if Georgia and Gunnar Stockton and a lot of the problems they have around him right now, if it's just a pretty good year by Georgia standards, then it's all up in the air, man. It's that like the belt is within reach, in other words. And the other one I think about is Penn State. Because how many people have you heard definitively say James Franklin cannot win a national title? He will never win a national title. Well, I understand that because the level that they've operated at has been very good but not great. And it's taken great to be able to win a title. Clemson under Dabo.
That's where I am.
One more for him. Is within reach. And then also, if that's the case, if we're in a world where B+ to maybe A- is all that's needed to put yourself in arm's reach for the title this year, well, then you start to ask yourself, Oklahoma's got a really good roster and they were terrible record-wise last year. They got a tough schedule again this year, but like if that OC quarterback combo, if that thing pans out and they got a top 15 defense, if Billy Napier's got a healthy DJ Lagway, and he's ready to ride him. You've got the potential for like one of these teams to go from completely out in the dark, out in the parking lot somewhere, to sitting at the main table.
I could see with all those teams you just mentioned too, like Penn State, you go to their foundation, Drew Aller, Danny Dennis Sutton coming back, one of the best edge defenders college football. You'll be great at running back, receiver, maybe a little bit of a question mark, but there are a lot of teams that would love to have that foundation starting out and say, all right, let's coach them up, see where we are. I agree with you on Arizona State. Not a lot of people understand how good their quarterback situation is right now. Clemson's a team that I find it impossible to not be high on going into this year with how they played. Is there one? Give me one that people are a little too high on that you hear talking about making a playoff run, maybe being the playoff run that you say, I can't get there just yet. And then is there one that you don't hear almost anybody jumping on board with that you say, that's one that I need to see a little bit more, but I feel like there's a chance they could have a special season?
Well, Georgia's the one I'm not just blindly buying into right now. You struggled to run the ball and struggled to play high-level defense last year. So then you lose vast majority of your returning production on the offensive line.
Yep.
I still don't think that they're overly special at tailback. And Beck, for all the flack that dude took, sometimes rightfully so last year, he also bailed him out a lot. They had no business winning the SEC championship last year. It's incredible they were able to do that. It's a testament to that coaching staff, but a lot of that left. They're going to be young on the interior of the defensive line. In other words, a lot of the stuff you rely on with Georgia, maybe it's going to be there. I don't just blindly assume it's going to be there. Like, they're top 4 right now over at FanDuel to win the whole thing. I would not have them top 4 right now. It's benefit of the doubt. It's Kirby Smart. It's the brand. It's that G and what it's come to mean.
And nobody knows who else to put ahead of them.
Yeah, well, that's the other part. So then that means a Washington with Damon Williams at quarterback in year 2 could just explode out of nowhere. Fish has done it before year 1 to year 2.
He's such a good coach, man.
I think the other one, I was out in Lubbock the other day, you would not believe the bodies walking around.
They got a roster.
You would not. Now, I know that's not team. Like, trust me, I know collection of individuals is far different than coalescing into a team, but off the radar that could very much appear on the radar, Texas Tech could do that.
Where are you on LSU right now?
Pretty high on them. I think it seems to me that a lot of people are looking for reasons not to believe in LSU, and maybe I've misread the room on that. But
I'm not looking for reasons, but I look at the fact that, like, kind of what you said about Georgia and tailback. I think Georgia's in a better spot than LSU's tailback wise. They haven't been LSU worthy at tailback in a while. I don't think they're going to be that this year. You lose your best option at tight end. You lose both of your tackles. You lose a pretty good guard. You have a quarterback that still has a little bit of an issue. Like, he hasn't completely rewired his chromosome with that turnover gene. It's still going to be there. He's going to take some chances. That could get you in trouble. Is Harold Perkins going to fit? I mean, are him and Weeks going to be healthy? First off, I think they will be probably. And I trust Blake Baker. And if anybody can use guys like, I mean, you saw what he did with Whit Weeks last year. Like, he made him more of a player because of the scheme he was in and knew how to use him. I think he can get a spot for Perkins, but the secondary hasn't been LSU like for a while either.
Yeah.
So this whole, like, oh, I'm putting them in the playoffs. I think they could. I think Brian Kelly's a hell of a coach, but it's almost a reoccurring theme of everybody we bring up. There are just more holes to pick at with these teams than it feels like there usually are. And that's Georgia's, the Bamas, all of them. Like, Texas is the one. Texas and Clemson are the two that I find the most difficulty picking apart. And I can still do it to an extent. It's just not to the extent of the couple that we just ran through.
Yeah. So with LSU, I'm a big believer in their year 1 to year 2 stuff defensively, because I think they got a heck of a staff down there. Now, that's blind belief. Like, notice I didn't say the name of a player. So that's blind belief. The tackle thing would terrify me. And maybe it still does, but the feedback I've gotten from there out of spring ball, at least, is they're like way ahead of schedule confidence-wise with their backfills at that position than even they thought they would be. Now, that is midway through spring ball, okay? Sure. So I say that with the utmost hesitancy. But if that's the case, then I feel okay about them at receiver. I do agree about tailback. But that's just one of someone's going to win the SEC with a glaring preseason weakness. By default.
Yeah.
Bama's extremely thin at tight end and running back. LSU, you just mentioned that. Georgia, we just talked about them. Texas, if they do it, they are replacing so much production. And yet again, for the second cycle in a row, they're trying to backfill really high-level guys on the interior of their defensive line. So someone's going to win that thing with glaring weakness. It's just who can cover it up the best.
Yeah, Texas may be in the best position at edge as anybody in college football.
That's true.
With Simmons, Moore, and Burke coming back. But as you state, and they did it last year. Everybody said, well, the middle of their defense is going to suffer, and they were actually pretty good inside.
Yep.
So it's intriguing, man. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. We'll catch up on it a little bit more before it actually gets here, but I appreciate your time today. Congrats once again on the engagement. I'm glad that we got the exclusive right here. First interview. I feel like this should be the cover of People magazine right here.
Yeah, well, that's what I was about to say. Screw Vanity Fair. Cube Show.
All 300 people that are going to watch. Tune
exactly.
in. All right, Josh, we'll catch up soon. Thank you. All right, there you go. A lot of different directions we went with Josh Pate, but a lot of good stuff there discussing the future of college football, where we are right now, heading through spring, what we're hearing about a couple of different teams, and then a little bit of a fall preview for this season that's coming up. Want to continue to have some of these conversations. I always appreciate you guys tuning in. I'm telling you, if you didn't hear the conversation with Tyler Siskey talking about the GM role with college football, and we got into a couple of different teams as well, one that keeps coming up, Oklahoma, I'm kind of starting to lean that direction as well. John Mateer, Deion Burks. You get Venables with his hands back on the defense. There's a lot to like right there. Schedule's tough, but there's a lot to like about those Sooners. Maybe we get somebody in next week and just focus in on that football team and actually dive into what they might be able to be. But please subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. We appreciate you all tuning in. Tell your friends about it. We're going to talk college football every weekend. Might be coming to you a little bit late now that UFL is here. But either direction, we appreciate you being a part of the show. Please subscribe, tell your friends, and come back and see us next week.